when Berhalter coaches us, a lot of times it doesn't seem like there's any continuity to our play. It's like people are unsure and they play unsure. And for me, the glaring statement of the whole game and the whole prior up to the game is we got a little bit more insight of Berhalter now that he's the coach and what are we to expect. And I thought the biggest thing for me was when he said, I haven't spoken to Gio Reyna yet.
And then, of course, in Chicago, a $35.5 million sale with $25 million of further investment promised by the ownership group led by Chicago Cubs and Chicago Sky part owner Laura Ricketts. Thankfully, someone bought the Chicago side because this team, man, they needed somebody to invest and someone to bring in money to be able to buy players, to trade players. Welcome back into Straight from the Pitch, joined as always by Scotty Schweitzer. I'm Anna Witte. A lot of news in NWSL and MLS and US men's and US women's national team. But before we dive into it all this week, Scotty's got a new t-shirt and we need to hear about it. You said you went to a LL Cool J concert on Sunday. How was it?
It was amazing. I went to the LL Cool J concert and he's been touring. It's like almost at the end. He ends in Boston. But I didn't know the lineup till the morning of, and I'm a big, huge East Coast rap fan, and he had one of my favorite rappers, Rakim, was on it. De La Soul was there.
Nice.
Z-Trip, DJ Jazzy Jeff. He brought out Petey Pablo because it was in North Carolina. Petey Pablo's from Greenville. I think he lives in Charlotte now. But, I mean, it was amazing. Yeah, I went with my 14-year-old daughter. It was one of the greatest concerts I've ever seen. Oh, and the Roots. The Roots were the band that played for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Roots fan. But it was cool how, like, usually when you go to a concert, between each set, you get a little break and people move around. Well, it was straight 3.5 hours of it never stopped. They just kept bringing people out, and they just kept coming out, and, like, the music never stopped. There was never a time where the lights went on. Juvenile was actually, like, there was just the people that were there, like, that I got. But to me, to be able to see Rakim live, man, that dude is legendary. So I'm repping my New York Mets hat and my new T-shirt.
It sounds
celebrating
like
50 years of hip hop.
It sounds like a Taylor Swift concert. Doesn't she perform for 3.5, 4 straight hours?
You'd have to ask my daughter. She's had a hell of a 2023. She went to Taylor Swift and then she went to LL Cool J. I mean, don't get no better than that.
I know.
I need to come off from concerts, maybe.
I need to come back as Emmy in my next life. Taylor Swift is the concert I wanted to see. I just don't have the funds for it currently, but I'm sure she'll be back. I mean, Taylor Swift is always popping out new music.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it because we got some good soccer this weekend. Let's start with the Challenge Cup win for the North Carolina Courage. They got their 7th league title. There was a goal from Caroline and Manaka, one of the new players for this North Carolina Courage side, winning 2-0. North Carolina had 11 shots on target to Racing Louisville's only 1 shot on target. What did you see out of this match? And I'd be really interested to see what you thought of these new Japanese players for the North Carolina side.
The Courage are unbelievable right now. I mean, they are hot. And to me, winning the cup, they deserved it. I thought they were amazing. I thought they were the best team as the cup built up and went and kept going. I will say this, though, playing as a player, it is hard to win a championship in your season and then come back with the same desire to win another one in the same season. So, I won in 1999. We won the U.S. Open Cup. I was in Rochester, and we won the Open Cup. And then we made it to the finals of the league, and we lost in Minnesota. But it was just so hard to get all that energy back up. You're also playing extra games that other teams aren't playing. So, even the teams that made it into the playoffs, they didn't all get those extra couple games and then teams that were out. But what the Courage are doing right now, so in the beginning of the year, we watched them, and they were death by 1,000 passes, just knocking the ball, except there was no death because there was really no chances on goal. They were just passing for the sake of passing. Well, now they've gotten the ability to, they went a couple stretch where they can pass and break you down and get shots. Well, now they can go long too because teams are just getting so drawn forward to stop their midfield from knocking the ball around. And their ability, the Courage's ability to understand spacing and their movement off the ball and their angles. They're just really, really fun to watch. And the Japanese players are really right now the key to the team because they play through them and then they play to them and they move them around. And the second goal, Manaka's goal is just pure. Like the ball in to Bodie, the touch by Bodie, the little pass by Bodie, the volley by Manaka. Like it's just beautiful, beautiful soccer. And I mean, the whole game, you're like, man, I feel bad for Louisville. They're not going to get to touch the ball today. They're not going to touch the ball today. And there was just nothing they could do against them. Now, the other thing I like about the Courage is, and we need to see this as sports fans, is it's not always the biggest name, the biggest star when you bring in. It's just how a team fits and molds together. And they it's funny here because I'm here locally, but they're saying now like best center back duo in the league. And I'm just like, as a sports soccer person, I'm like, let's settle down. They're not the two best center backs.
Oh, people are saying Berkeley and
here locally,
Courage?
but the fans of the Courage, which come on now, they're doing their job, but they fit. Everything fits in its place for Carolina. There's their identity is known. They all know who they are. They know what their role is. Like Wingate comes in and plays 15, 20 minutes at the end of the game, every game. And she's so excited to do it. And they're excited for her. And everything just works. Whereas, you build an all-star team as a pro team. And it's like, guys don't get along. Guys want the ball more. Girls want they put a team together that is truly a team. They work for each other. They fight for each other. They understand their role and they're happy with their role. And I think that's what's really interesting to watch with the Courage. And then they play this brand of soccer, which it's really good. It's really good for a season. And it's going to give them these points. Now, can they do this when everybody ramps it up? And I know they're going to ramp it up too in the playoffs. Everybody's going to ramp it up a little bit. But when you get ramped up and you're one of these Portlands or you're Seattle or whoever gets in, because they're all good teams, it's going to be a little bit different because tackles are going to be a little harder. Defenses are going to be a little tighter. Things are going to be a little sharper. Like I would think now you're coming into a Courage game as an opponent and you're like, we're going to run all day long today. This is going to be the worst game. We're sitting in third place, fourth place. We're in the playoffs probably. And that takes place in the season. But in the playoffs, everybody's geared up. Everybody's going for it. So, I'd like to see how this transitions into the playoffs. Also, they just won a championship. And like I said, it's hard to win in season a championship and still have more season to go that you have to gear up for all the heartache and the toughness that it takes to win a championship.
Right. And there's still plenty of games left to be played. 4 games left in the regular season, even before you get to playoffs. And North Carolina has put themselves in a really good position at the top of the standings right now to get there. But you mentioned the passes. That's what stuck out for me in this game. 568 connected passes for North Carolina. It showed that Louisville couldn't live on the ball. North Carolina was able to progress it up the field and do things that, like you said, they weren't able to do at the beginning of the season. What I think has benefited North Carolina the most this season is it's all new young players outside of Theo Sullivan and Ryan Williams. But even for Ryan Williams, she's somewhat new to this team in a sense that this is her first season of really starting and being a part of this team. She has a completely different role than she's ever had on this Courage side. So I think Nahas being able to come in and bring in a bunch of new players to fit his mold and to fit how he wanted to play really has benefited them to get this win over Racing Louisville. Also, to credit, so to speak, Louisville, they were missing Carson Pickett and Jalen Howe. Jalen Howe is a massive anchor in the middle of the field, and Carson Pickett provides so much defensively for this back line. They missed both those players in the win over Portland Thorns in the regular season match. So hats off to Racing Louisville in that sense, but I think it just wasn't enough to go on the road and play this North Carolina side after playing Wednesday night, play 3 days later looking for a Challenge Cup win. But to me, it proves that Racing Louisville is right there. They have those small pieces, and now that Katlana and Kanu are playing together a bit more, they have the potential to find themselves in the playoffs and be very successful. I think it'll just take maybe a little bit more time to win everything, but I think this is a great place that Racing found themselves in, and obviously a really good win for this North Carolina side. 7th league title. I mean, North Carolina has the mojo. They've got everything going on, but it's like you said, Scotty, can they follow through and get that final win towards the very end?
And you don't want to ever think this as a fan of a team, but like I've seen it happen against me. I know that I've been on teams where we've done it. When you're going into a tournament like this and you're going into the final, yes, of course, Louisville wants to win, and yes, they want the $1 million, and however that's going to be split amongst the team. But when you're down players and you still are fighting for a playoff spot for something that's really bigger than just the Challenge Cup,
Mm-hmm.
like to win the league is much like we all would rather than win the league than the Challenge Cup as a fan, as a player. You know, you want to win everything, but if you had to pick between them, you're picking the league. So we don't know that they go in and say, "Hey, we're going to work on a couple things. We're going to work on sitting back. We're going to work on counterattack soccer. We don't have Pickett. We don't have Hal. Don't worry about losing. This doesn't hurt our mentality going forward. We're missing stars." Like I played indoor soccer in Milwaukee, was one of the teams we always found ourselves either in the finals or the semis against. And when they would come in regular season and play us, they would leave at least 7 stars home. They would never bring them because they couldn't beat us at our place. So you don't want their morale to go down. So the coach after would always say, well, we didn't have anybody. We didn't bring anybody on this trip. You know, this was our rest trip, blah, blah, blah. So we don't know. Did Louisville go in and say, yeah, we're going to try to win? But if this gets a little bit out of control, and then you had the rain and the weather delay, and it was crazy here, and then, you know, are they going back out? You always want to be the home team in a weather delay, unless you're NC State football team, I guess, playing Notre Dame last weekend. Good God. But, you have your locker, you have all the amenities, you know where everything's at. You can get food to you. You know where your training room is better than their training room. It's just the way it is as a pro athlete. So with that delay, does he go into and say, okay, now let's really settle down. Maybe I can get some minutes for players because we're right on that cusp of making the playoffs, and that's where our big push is going to be. So, no taking nothing away from the courage or anything, but we don't know what goes on in locker rooms and how they say what they want to, like, okay, we're here, let's try to win it, but like nobody put your heads down if we lose this game. Like we're missing players. This is not the end result. This is not why in the beginning of the year do we say, hey, if there's anything we got to do, let's win the Challenge Cup. They're happy to be there, but we start the season and we're trying to win the league. We're trying to win that trophy. That's the number one goal going in. And we wanted to win everything in Rochester, but like we didn't go in and say we want to win the Community Shield. Like we didn't want to win the best record. We like to. It was the one game we needed to win was the championship game. That was the only game that really mattered. We got to get to that game and we got to win it. That's what our season, that's what we train for, not to have the best record in the league. If we did it, great. If we won the Open Cup, great. But we were trying to win league titles over and over and over. And we were fortunate enough to do them many, many times in Rochester.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And throughout this whole Challenge Cup and talking to some coaches about their approach to the Challenge Cup, some coaches really wanted their young players to get experience, their inexperienced players in case somebody gets injured. Obviously, the World Cup was a huge player in this season. So getting young players throughout this entire season and this Challenge Cup play was important. So some teams didn't compete in the way that they are competing in the regular season. And then some teams like North Carolina and Racing Louisville to an extent have competed in a similar way that they have in regular season. But like you said, no one's ever going to disclose completely their tactics and to who they want to play, why they want to play them, and what position. And I think for Racing Louisville, those 2 big injuries were massive against this North Carolina side, and the 2 Japanese players that North Carolina has brought into their system, proven they can play anywhere. They can play any brand of soccer. They're very knowledgeable about the game. And that fits in a lot more seamlessly than when you bring a player who can only play 1 or 2 styles of play. It gets them, a few games, a few minutes to get up to speed. And that was very clear that that hasn't happened with this North Carolina side. They're going to be a really fun team to continue to watch and how they're going to implement those players in the remaining few regular season games as they make this playoff push. This league this season with the World Cup and players now, especially U.S. players, wanting to get a win this year after what happened at the World Cup. I think we're going to see a really competitive final few games in this league play. But we're going to stay on the topic of the NWSL, but go off the pitch because Portland Thorns and OL Reign's sale is expected by the end of the year ahead, according to Commissioner Jessica Berman. Portland's been on sale since December 2022 after the Yates Report investigation found owner Merritt Paulson avoided scrutiny over the reasons the club dismissed that disgraced Paul Riley back in 2015. He hasn't been a part of any of the decisions the club has made. And for the Reign, they went on the market in 2023 after Washington Spirit's owner, Michelle Kang, began the process of taking over the women's team at Reign's parent club in Olympic Lyon. So the Reign cannot be a part of what Michelle Kang is also doing in the Washington Spirit, which means this sale was going to happen, just hasn't happened yet. And then, of course, in Chicago, a $35.5 million sale with $25 million of further investment promised by the ownership group led by Chicago Cubs and Chicago Sky part owner Laura Ricketts. Thankfully, someone bought the Chicago side because
Yes.
this team, man, they needed somebody to invest and someone to bring in money to be able to buy players, to trade players, to figure out how they are going to play. I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with Chris Petroselli, with the Chicago head coach, and what happens with his role or how things change for him as the coach. But those are three big clubs in this league and three clubs that have been very stable throughout this, ebb and flow of NWSL. How do you see these three sales, one's already happened, but two that are pending, affecting the NWSL moving forward?
Man, that's a great question because the Chicago, I think, based on what we've seen with them in such flux before the sale, it can only be good. It can only be a positive for Chicago. I mean, I feel for those players, it's got to be so hard going in and day out. You can't am I going to have a contract next year? How do I negotiate? Do I negotiate? Do we have this coach? Am I going to be here? What's going to be here? And then you got the tactics of the game and play, and you got to stay
Right.
fit, and you got so much going. It's hard. So for me, is Chicago. You finally won a game. You finally got a win. But you finally got something to go your way. So I think that for them going forward, it can only be a positive. Now, how it's run and what they do, but I mean, we're talking about the Chicago Cubs. I mean, one of the most stable organizations, not the most winningest organization, although they've been much better in the near future. I mean, in the present, but it's a stable club. You don't ever think anything bad's going to happen to the Cubs as far as they're not going to go anywhere. They're always going to be around. So hopefully they bring in some of that experience. They get the right people in place to run the business and take care of the business, and everybody gets on the same page. That's coaches included and players included. So I think the Chicago one's good. Portland and Seattle, now that is a different story because you're talking about since they've been in, two kind of stalwarts of the league. And Portland, when you look at them, you're like, if I'm a club, I'm trying to be the Portland. I'm trying to be Portland. I mean, I know the Courage have won 7 trophies, but the Courage were Western New York, so they moved from somewhere else. Portland has always been Portland. Portland to me is the identity of the league in itself.
Oh, yeah.
What a strong, stable club this has been for so long. So now you don't want to just sell it. It's so stable that their owner hasn't been allowed to do anything with the club, and they're still just going along. And they're in second place, but they have a chance to come in first. By the end, I just feel like now whoever gets that team, we hope it's done the right way. And then for Seattle, there's another one where you're connected to Olympic Lyon in France. It's such a storied franchise in itself. And now you're going to sell and be a different club now. Who's coming in to take over Seattle? Are you going to do it the right way? Now, there's enough money out in the Pacific Northwest. I know that doesn't mean that they have to be the people that become ownerships, but usually your ownership group is kind of local to the area or has some ties to the area, and they're trying to do more for the community than just have a team for themselves. Usually it's for the community. They usually buy into these teams. So hopefully it all goes well because 3 teams out of 12, and I know there's a couple teams coming in, but you don't want to see a lot of teams getting sold. And I was saying to you, when I see houses for sale in my neighborhood and a whole bunch I'm always thinking, what do they know that I don't know? Why is everybody selling their houses? And but some people just get different jobs or whatever. But same as here is we know the Seattle reasoning, what was going on in Chicago, what's all of a sudden going on in Portland. Is there a reason? What is all going on? And now can we get this organized and put back together because we don't want to lose any momentum of what this league has built over the last few years.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think with two new clubs coming in the 2024 season, this should be a positive, bringing in people who really want to be invested in the league, people who see the momentum of not only just soccer, but also women's soccer here in the States. And going off of what you said about Portland, how, the changes ownership or Merritt Paulson has to step down because of what happened. They still have the good players. They don't have to go out and get better players because what they already have within their system is good, and that helped the Thorns. That worked in their favor. I think for Seattle, I mean, OL, they're called OL Reign right now. Like, are they going to go back to Seattle Reign? I would like to see it. It makes more sense. I mean, it's in Seattle. Let's call them the team of where they are located. I think there's going to be some rebranding, not only just what they're going to be called, but actually their logo branding is going to be different. With Megan Rapinoe stepping down, I'm really interested to see. Like, she's been such a big face of this OL Reign side for so long. She's been a part of this club forever. I don't see her completely stepping away from the NWSL in that club. I'm not saying she's going to be an owner necessarily. I'm just very interested to see how they're going to use her now that she's not playing on the field anymore. And with the Chicago side, like you said, the Cubs, somebody who clearly has part ownership in the Sky, who's invested in women's sports, who's invested in sports in America in general, this should be a huge boost. Chicago's a massive sports market. Like, why doesn't this Chicago Red Stars side not bring more fandom? Why don't they have more people following them? Why is Bridgestone Arena, not Bridgestone Arena, sorry, Bridgeview in Illinois, like, why is that stadium always fairly empty? It's a good brand of soccer. They've got good talent. I hope that Laura Ricketts can bring in more for the Chicago side.
I think like when you're just mentioning, and I think you make a great point, is like with Chicago, the ownership coming in, I honestly think it's a little bit of an easier job for them because Chicago's been bad. So
Yeah.
you can make wholesale changes. You can go at it. You can go at it. But like with Portland, you come in as an owner and you try to change things and you go the wrong route. And you're going to lose a lot of your fan base because they're used to something. The players are used to something. The people that work in the organization are used to something.
You buy the club, you buy the Portland Thorns. What do you change?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Like when I come in, if I'm the owner and I buy it, like, and I wouldn't just all of a sudden buy it, but like hey, I'm looking to buy it and I'm the front runner. Well, I want to come in and I want to talk to everybody. I want to know how things are run. I want to know, like, and I want to know from the players too. I want to know, like, what do you like? What has been great over the years? Like, what don't you like? And that doesn't mean I'm going to change things you don't like, because it might be you don't like it, but it works in our favor. I played in Cleveland in indoor, and we sold, like, at the end of my 8 years there. They got sold right before I left, and a new ownership came in, and we had went to the finals 5 years in a row and won like 3, and then we lost in the finals right when the sale got made. And the new owner came in. He's like, "We're going to change everything," and I was like, why are you going to change everything? Like there's probably tinker with it, but don't change it. And he did. He made these massive changes. Like, I run a business. I know how to do this. I'm a blah, blah, blah. Like, soccer's a different business. It's a weird business. It is a business, but it's different. There's things that have to be done differently. Sometimes you have to lose money to make money. Sometimes you have to lose seasons to gain longevity. Like, it's a weird sport and it's a weird business. So like in Portland, you come in and you try to make all these crazy changes, man, you better hope they all work, because that is a club that has a foundation, that they're always great. At the beginning of the year, teams are, who's up at the top? We're all picking Portland. We're all thinking Portland's going to do it. So like, if I'm coming in and buying it, Chicago, like I said, that's a different story. Seattle, I think they're good, but they haven't done enough. So I can come in and change some things there too and say, we're making these changes. And if it goes a little bit of awry, we can come back and come back to things. But like Portland is like, they're always up there. They're always fighting for a championship. They're always the best team. They always have the best players. They always have the best fan base. So it's tricky coming in. And if I'm in Chicago, I got to figure out, and I think part of the reason is the same reason the Courage don't do as good here, is there's too many things going on outside of just the game. Like when I played in Rochester, we were very good. We put a great product on the field and we were winners. But it was the summer in Rochester. And the only thing going on in the summer of Rochester is minor league baseball, who wasn't very good at the time, and festivals. So we were getting 15,000 people in the stands because that was the thing to do. In Chicago in the summer, there's White Sox, Cubs, the museums, like everything's going on. Here they're battling. When it's colder, they battle the Hurricanes. When it's like their season, they're battling right now all the colleges. Like there was nobody at that championship game on Saturday because State played Notre Dame, Carolina was home, and Duke was playing. So like the people didn't want to go. They wanted to watch their college teams. And I think that's what Chicago fights. It doesn't matter how much the product on the field is great in Chicago because there's so much to do in Chicago in the summer.
Yeah, and for Chicago, they don't even play in Chicago. They play at SeaGeek, which is in Bridgeview, Illinois. So I think that's one big thing that Laura Ricketts needs to do is find a way to get this Red Stars team a little bit closer to the city. Granted, in the suburbs, you're bringing in, the parents who bring their kids, who play at the youth level, who want to see. That's great. And we see that in the stadium, but they also need to find a way to bring in the casual fan, the people who want to come in and see the Red Stars play, who want to see Mallory Swanson play. And Swanson, her husband plays for the Cubs. So there's that branding there that's how they need to launch off of that, find a way to continue to bring in some of these Cubs fans who know obviously Dansby Swanson, but also Mallory Swanson, and bring them to the Red Stars games. I think there's so much that needs to happen in Chicago. I agree in Portland. I mean, they've got an amazing fan base. There's nothing you need to touch there necessarily. I'm sure there's some back end stuff that we don't know, but overall the club is run pretty seamlessly. But in Seattle, it's a little bit different. Sometimes they've got a good crowd, sometimes they don't. Is there a way that they can build a soccer-specific stadium and not use Lumen Field that's built for the NFL? I think there could be a way to draw more fans that way. But they're playing in a great place. They have some, good, solid players. They've got some name recognition with Sofia Huerta, Rose Lavelle, Megan Rapinoe, who won't be there anymore. But like I said, I expect her to still be involved. I think there's so many moving parts, and these types of stories are so interesting to me because what happens off the field obviously always translates to what's happening on the field and the branding and how teams are selling themselves. So this is something Scotty and I certainly will be keeping our eyes on to see how this story continues to develop. But we're going to move away from the women's game because the U.S. men's national team played this weekend and they beat Uzbekistan 3-0. But it wasn't that easy, Scotty, because there was a goal in the 4th minute, and they didn't score again until 90th plus 1 minute, so extra time of this match. A goal from Timothy Weah, Ricardo Pepi, and then Pulisic didn't even have a run-of-play goal. It was a penalty kick goal that got the U.S. men's national team their 3rd goal. Uzbekistan outshot them 15-13. So Uzbekistan had more shots than the U.S. did. How does the U.S. men's national team grow from this match into their next one that is played Wednesday night?
How did they, man, I don't know. And there was I watched the game and we were good in spots on the field at times. I thought Pulisic was okay. And I wouldn't say more than okay. I thought he was okay. I did like the kid that came in, Taylor Tessman, who came in, what's-his-face got injured, and Taylor Tessman came in. I do like him, and I would like to say this to fans, if you don't know. Taylor Tessman is playing in the Serie B in Italy, so the 2nd division in Italian soccer. And I'm not saying Serie B is a better brand of soccer than Serie A or any league or anything. But the 2nd division and 3rd division in European soccer is so hard to play in because a lot of these players are right on the cusp of being a 1st division or your team itself if you can get promoted and move up into it. So the hunger and desire in these games and the physicality in these games, and you're talking Serie B anyway, so Italian soccer is a physical game. It is so intense. When I played in France, I was playing 3rd division, and I was like the whole time for 2 years, if I could just get a League One game in, people would see because there's a little bit, in a weird way, more time and space because of how talented all the players are around. Whereas in the lower divisions, there's a drop off of the top 7 players on the field can probably play in the top league. Maybe 8, 9, and 10 really can't or aren't the best, but they're all so intense and so fired up. So this guy's playing in a league where everyone's trying to get to Serie A. So it's such a hard league, and he came in and he was physical and he played fast, and I thought he was a good I was like, wow, where's this guy been? Why haven't we seen more of this young player? I was really impressed with him. I am going to say a couple things, and I'm sure the fans of U.S. soccer are. I think one of the big problems for U.S. soccer, besides our center backs, I think our center backs are very, very. They're the liability. But I am not a Weston McKennie fan. I'm sorry, I am not. I think he causes more problems on the field than he does to help the team. He's a workhorse. He plays his hardest. I'm not saying anything, but like he makes a lot of mistakes and he does a lot of things where he's solely thinking about how he can help the game, not how is it the right thing for the team with the movements and the shifting and the sliding. He does a lot of things where I think if he's not on the field, I think we're a much better team. And I know he got the assist on the first goal, and it was a great first touch. But like I said, he does a play like that, and then he has 10 where he just gives the ball away. And I still say our forward line, and I understand Berhalter, he had his I'm going to play 45, and then this guy's going to play 45 with the forwards. But like when Berhalter coaches us, a lot of times it doesn't seem like there's any continuity to our play. It's like people are unsure and they play unsure. And for me, the glaring statement of the whole game and the whole prior up to the game is we got a little bit more insight of Berhalter now that he's the coach and what are we to expect. And I thought the biggest thing for me was when he said, I haven't spoken to Gio Reyna yet. Mm-hmm. Like, we hired you, and in the statement, it said because you're going to be – he was the best leader for this team. That speaks volume. Like, what do you mean you have not spoken to Gio Reyna? Because he broke his leg and you knew you weren't going to bring him in for these games? Like, that doesn't – when we play in a meaningful game, we need Gio Reyna. In the Nations League Cup, he wasn't even close. He was by far our best player. Like, we need Gio Reyna, and we need him to be the 10 where you never played him because that's when the team looked the best. Everybody had their thoughts. Everybody had their ideas. And we were the best 2 games I've ever seen the U.S. put together back-to-back was those 2 games. And we didn't even have Tyler Adams playing because he was injured from the World Cup. And, like, he's our captain. He's for sure a starter. So, like, you add Tyler Adams with Musa and Reyna in there, which is great for me because I just said I didn't like McKennie. But, like, I don't understand how you haven't talked to this guy. Like, what do you mean you haven't talked to him? Like, that was your first job. If I get this job back, the first thing I have to do is talk to Reyna.
So what I agree that this conversation should have been had long ago. I mean, Berhalter has been a part of this back in this system for so long now. Why does he want to have those conversations? And also the other question to me is like, why isn't Crocker pushing them to have this conversation saying, hey, like, he's clearly our best player. We've seen him do great stuff for, our team and in a different role that maybe you don't want to play him in. Let's all like kind of swallow our pride a bit and have a quick conversation. But like
that would have been in my interview process. How are you going to handle the Reyna thing?
Right.
That would have been like maybe question number 1, Crocker. If I'm Crocker, I'm like, how are you going to handle this? It's like, this kid is talented. Like, yeah, great. His parents have acted wrong. Good. We'll keep them away. You don't have to talk to them. They're not playing. But this kid's going to play. And get to Germany. Like, I'll go with you. But, like, don't we have people, like, in place? Like, we talked about on the show, like, okay, if you hired Berhalter back, who's the mediator? Because this conversation has to happen. And I don't think it's going to be an easy conversation. But it has to, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, why haven't – the day he got hired and he signed his contract, the next day he should have been in Germany or wherever the hell Gio Reyna was and had a dinner with them. And the funny thing is, Reyna was hurt for a long time. So he wasn't even practicing with Dortmund. So, like, there was times to meet him. Go to Germany. Go and see him. Get on the U.S. Soccer's dollar and take the plane and go with everybody. Go with BJ. He's had a good relationship with them. Like, there should have been people in this room. There should have been a dinner. It's like almost like a recruiting process. Like, a lot of things have happened. He's going to be better. You need to be better. We're going to keep our eye on everything. But, we got to push differences aside. Like, forget about your past. Like, this is the only way forward. Like, to me, is like, this guy is going to lead us. Like, a leader knows to do that. A leader knows to go and talk to these players. Like, because part of the job in my interview process, I'm also saying, you got plans for Reyna. Please tell me you got plans for Reyna. Like, right. We just saw him play. He's amazing.
But don't you think he assumed Crocker probably assumed that he had plans for Anna, right? Like, I think some people just assume. Then they want to get into the nitty-gritty and they're like, Raina did such a good job. I know, there's issues, but we're all adults in this room. I'm sure for Crocker, there was a bit of an assumption that Berhalter would just handle Raina in a normal fashion, which if I've learned anything in life, you can never assume because
Correct, correct. And then I mean, like the way it went down, that Berhalter had to go through what the process he went through.
right.
Like we can't assume. Like
Right.
this is craziness. That just like you're telling me on the national team, I got a mom and a dad calling friends that are in the business trying to get a guy in trouble because they didn't play his son enough minutes. Like it's youth soccer. We're dealing with youth soccer. Like how do we deal with that? But this is at the national team level for me is like you're right. We could not assume like those that need to be. They were bullet points in my interview. Like how are you going to handle Reina? And I'm not saying how you're going to handle Claudio or his wife. Who
Yeah.
cares? Like don't ever talk to them again. I could really care less what your relationship with that is. That's personal.
Right.
This one's not personal. This is the benefit of the United States Soccer Federation. This kid needs to play. You need to squash this. You need to. And I'm not telling you to play him if you don't think he should play, but there's no way that this kid's not are on our national team. So you're going to have to talk to him. You're going to have to get him to buy into you. You're going to have to buy into him. And we need to. And I want to be in that. I want to be in that process. I want to hear what you have to say because if it goes the wrong way, I quickly gave you the job. I will quickly take it away from you too.
Yeah. No,
Because,
absolutely.
because what BJ Callahan put on the field, and I understand like he was an interim to an interim, but like those, I'm telling you, those two games were amazing.
I
How good
agree.
we played. They were, and one of the games we didn't have McKinney because he got the red card. Like, and I'm okay with the red card. Like that was against Mexico. That showed our fight. That showed our desire. We were playing great. They got chippy. They couldn't handle it. Yeah, did we lose our cool a little bit? That's fine. We did. But like to me, also is like when I watch this game because it wasn't good enough. But there's our players out there that are doing some good things. Like Serginho Dest to me is like, here's a player who couldn't find a club, finally found a club. He was in this limbo. That guy's playing with a lot of hunger. So that's a good, like, let's push that. Let's push that product. Let's help this kid because
Yeah.
he's playing with tons of desire. Tim Ware is super comfortable. Pulisic, like I said, wasn't great, wasn't bad or anything, but like he's super comfortable now at AC Milan. He's happy. He's not at Chelsea where he's fighting for minutes that he really couldn't even get. So like things are on the uptick with us. And then for that to come out and then okay, I haven't talked to Gio Reyna. That's the first thing that comes out. And then the product we watch them play and like I never thought we were going to lose. And I know we got outshot, but like if I'm of the two coaches, the other coaches got to be way happier. Like they played a better brand of soccer than us.
No,
And there's just things that happen on the field. Like, and I directly to me is like, that goes to Berhalter. Like that to me is like, why were we playing so good and now you're back and we're playing crappy again?
Well, it seemed too that to your point of earlier, the U.S. men's national team weren't connected, and it seemed like their possession was without a lot of purpose. Like they would try and draw out Uzbekistan and then go over the top, but it never worked because Uzbekistan figured that piece out. And then as soon as the opponent figures out what the national team wants to do, then they flounder and they don't know what to do because they can't rely on the principles of what they have in place because the principles are out of control. I mean, there's no principles. This team has kind of floundered a lot since what's developed post World Cup and what's happened with the whole Berhalter scandal. So I think if this national team can come to a consensus together, if they can find a principle that's very simple, not club style of principle, but a principle that they can all come back and remember and rely on, then they have something that they can continue to build on. But up until then, and up until this whole Reina thing gets figured out, I know he's injured, but I know that has to bring some drama into the club. I mean, these men going into these camps aren't having these conversations saying, why hasn't Berhalter spoken? Or no, he shouldn't have spoken. I'm sure a lot of people have their own opinions on what's going on with that relationship. But until all that drama gets figured out, I think there's still going to be a sense of unsteadiness on this team. And Real quick, I want to correct myself because I'm getting my days completely confused. The game is tonight against Oman, 5:30 Pacific time, 8:30 Eastern time, played in Minnesota. So after when this episode airs, obviously this game will be played, but it'll be very interesting to see what happens and who he kind of puts on the field and if he tries to change up some tactics on Tuesday night. We're going to stay with the national team topic because right before Scotty and I jumped on to record, the U.S. women's national team released their September camp roster. And I am going to real quickly just say who's been added to the roster that wasn't at the World Cup. So goalkeepers do not change. It's going to be Kingsbury, Murphy, and Nair. On defense, Davidson will be at this camp, and so will Casey Kruger. In the midfield, our girl Sam Coffey will be there. And on the forward position, Mia Fischel and Ashley Hatch and Jaden Shaw, San Diego forward, will be at this camp. Obviously, we're very pumped that Sam Coffey and Ashley Hatch will be a part of this camp. I think those are really good decisions. Those were must adds. Kruger, sure. Why not? Give her an opportunity. Davidson, I think, is a good decision as well. Jaden Shaw has been, I think, exceptional with this San Diego side and a good addition as well. But overall, how do you assess the amount of players they brought in, who they decided to bring back, and what we might see out of these September games?
I I think it's almost a little bit. And again, I'm a big Jaden Shaw fan. I'm a huge Coffee fan, but I think Coffee has in her 2 years solidified she's the future. And I feel bad or for whatever reasons because now I have my own thoughts on these and we'll get into those a little bit later why Coffee didn't make this World Cup squad going into the World Cup. But Jaden Shaw I think has really came out of nowhere this year and really solidified herself as a bright future in women's soccer. So like, and I think we talked about her on our very first, like who we were looking forward to seeing play this year. But like for me, there's certain players that listen there. If she's your starter and still your starter, and I think there's certain games where she should start, and I think there's certain games where she shouldn't. But like we know what she is. Here is an opportunity to bring in some players, and we're gonna get the response of like, well, this is Rapinoe and Ertz's last game, so you want them to go out with the crew that they kind of came in that are still there, and I'm like, yeah, that's awesome, and but that's not the reality of it. This is the Federation, this is the World Cup, this is the Olympic team, this is going forward. We have to do the right things to make sure we are going in the right direction. So like some of the players, I don't think we need to. I wouldn't bring Nair in. I would not have brought Nair in. I'd bring the girl from Louisville in.
Katie Lund.
I would bring her in, and this way, and I wouldn't. I would bring Murphy in, but I wouldn't bring Murphy in maybe even to play one of these games because I've seen her in games. So like I want to see other players. I want to see how they react to games and how they react to the pressure and all those fans. And it's a little bit different when it's the women's team because the women's team went into St. Louis and packed the house. The men's team were just in there, and it was like nobody. It was a terrible. They didn't sell out. It was a bad showing, and then they showed bad on the field. But for me, it's like we need to make some decisions. We need to get some new blood in. We can't be scared of it, and we got to go for it. And like that might be changing up the way we play. So that's obviously what we have to do in order to catch the Japans, to catch the Spains, to catch these teams that when we played them, we saw, to catch the Englands and be like, man, we're not number one anymore. We're not where we used to be. We have to make some changes. And that's why, for me, Jaden Shaw, Coffee, those girls can play a different brand of soccer. They could go play in the Super League. And I think watching Jaden Shaw, she's doing really well, but I think she might need to be a player that we need to say, hey, you might need to go to a different league just to see the brand of soccer. So when we see it on the international level, it's not brand new to us. I think part of the problem with our teams is we get so comfortable in playing one way, and then it's the only way we know how to play. So like when the men come in, the men are being taught, Pulisic's being taught how AC Milan plays. Tim Ware's playing Juventus, McKinney, whatever. And they're playing, and when they come in, they keep that system that they've been playing all year with their club team. Whereas the European teams and the Asian teams, when they come in, they know the players they're with, and they adapt to their style of play that the player plays and is best for them. We just go in and said, well, this is what my coach that I love at AC Milan plays, and it's working for me, so I'm going to do it. But I don't have the rest of the AC Milan team behind me. So I have to adapt my game to how the players I'm playing with play and what's good for them and what benefits them. And that'll also then benefit me. And we don't do that on any of our national teams. I think we come in, Morgan says, this is how I play. Sophia Smith says, this is how I play. This is how I play. So bringing in different players is good because we have to get used to each other. And these players are going to be the future of the sport for us. But I also think we need to study the game more. And that's one of the good things about, you look at some of these European teams or like Spain, yes, you have a whole bunch playing in Barcelona, but then you have some in Mexico and you have some in England and you have some here. And so they're learning these different brands of soccer. And then when they go back together, they kind of teach each other a little bit different style, and then they adapt to what's best for them as a whole. And I don't think we do that anywhere near good enough.
No, I completely agree. There's just no change, and it's very predictable, right? We just read the roster, and that those players are in addition to the World Cup players, obviously. And we know exactly what we're going to see out of this game. And my hope, though, is that these players actually do see the field against South Africa on the 21st, because there's a chance that they won't. There's a chance that we see the same World Cup lineup: Alex Morgan in the 9, Sophia Smith playing out wide, Trinity Rodman. So predictable. We know what's going to happen. Like, throw in Jaden Shaw. See how, if you want to play Alex Morgan, fine, whatever. See how that connection works on the national team level, because we all know how it works in San Diego. And to me, that's why they're bringing Shaw in, is to see how she works on the national team level, give her that opportunity outside of just training to play. Mia Fischel is a player I'm really excited to see, because she plays for Tigres and Liga MX. She came over from that club in Chelsea, who head coach for Chelsea, Emma Hayes, spoke super highly of Fischel. And I think this is exciting. We're seeing a player who doesn't play in NWSL, who hasn't really been a part of US women's national team soccer talk really ever, to be able to come in and potentially fit in well, fit in somewhat seamlessly, because she does bring a different style of play to this club, and is something we haven't seen. And that's what we've asked for. That's what we've all called for post World Cup. It's stuff that we haven't seen, but she has to get those opportunities to step on the field and play. And also for Sam Coffey, I know this is Juilliard's going away game, and this can roll us into the next conversation, Scotty, but I hope Coffey get some minutes, and this isn't the Julie Ertz show. Let's see her play her final 2 games, because that's not fair either. And not that this game is about being fair, but it's about what's going to benefit this team, and giving Julie Ertz 180 minutes of play doesn't benefit this team. So the next conversation is Julie Ertz announces her retirement from the national level, from the club level, and now she's going to be a part of these 2 games in the month of September with the U.S. national team. Good call from U.S. Soccer to bring her in, or should she have been done with her retirement announcement?
Man, I am, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot of flack from all the Julie Ertz lovers. And listen, give me the flack. I could care less. But
Yeah.
I think Julie Ertz at one time was the best soccer player in the world.
Oh, yeah.
That is what I think. When she was the center back, she was the reason we won the World Cup when she played center back. She was the reason we won the World Cup when she was the 6. No doubt about it. But for this to go out the way it's happened, this to me is as a player and a person who loves, and I mean loves the game. Like, I can't go a day without it. It's hard for me to go an hour without the game somehow. Watching a game, playing the game, teaching, coaching, whatever. Julie Ertz, when she decided to come back and play in the World Cup, she was totally for Julie Ertz. This was not for the United States. This was not for her friends. This was not for the national team. This was so she could say she won 3, because she had no desire to play after the World Cup. And listen, people that have played sports know it. Like, there comes a time where you don't want to give the game up. I understand that. She doesn't want to give it up, but she just can't do it anymore, whether that's physically or whether that's mentally, because it is a grind. It is hard. It is hard not to see your family. It is super hard. And I understand all that. But to play in 7 games, sign an NWSL contract, go to the World Cup, lose, be sad on camera, and then like a week, 2 weeks later, whatever the hell it was, to then announce that you are – she did not just leave the national team players hanging out to dry. She left her club team out to dry. She left a player that was maybe trying to become a pro. To me, like, I don't know why I like this player so much, but man, I am so sick for Sam Coffey that Julie Ertz did that to her. Like that was her position. And Julie Ertz took it by name recognition because she wasn't terrible in any of the NWSL games, but she wasn't like me saying like, whoa, we got to get her there. She has to be on this team. Like, and then the results that we had at the World Cup was like, and I'm not saying she even played bad. She didn't. But like, that's just so wrong for the game. Like, tell me a player that has ever done that anywhere, has sat out 2 years, made a comeback, played 7 games for a league that let you into it for, man, I'm guessing somebody knew what was going on there too. So I'm disgraced with that. Then the federation takes you in, and then the World Cup ends. And no, you don't just retire from international play, which normally happens. And you're doing that because your time is up and you want the next generation to get their time. She retires from football altogether. Like, I'm sorry, man. No way. I'm sick. That makes me sick to my stomach. I just don't think that's the way you handle it. She should have came back, finish out the year. You signed the contract. Nobody made you sign that contract with the NWSL. Nobody made you do that. You decided to do that. So now you're just going to leave all that. That team's just got left out to dry. Those fans hung out to dry. Like, I went to the Julie Ertz game here because my daughter said, I want to see 2 players, Alyssa Thompson and Julie Ertz. And Julie Ertz didn't play here. So, like, when I look back on the whole thing now, I'm like, well, that was a rest day that we didn't get privy to. And that was a rest day to have her ready, not for the season, for the World Cup. Because coming back from injuries or coming back from time off, it's hard to get back into playing shape in the sense that you can do it over and over and over and over and over again. It's the recovery that's the hardest to come back from. So they were planning her recovery stages in the NWSL to have her ready for the World Cup. So like I went and go to this game and like I don't get to see her because she didn't have any desire for my daughter to see her play. She was there to get ready for her for the World Cup, for her last hurrah, for her, all for her. And that's why I think we do bad in soccer in the United States, is because we don't play for the love of the game. We play for the love of us and what the game can give us. And it's going to be super hard. It would be a conversation me and her had, which is never going to happen, for her to change my mind.
Yeah.
And I don't ever
That's
see me
fair.
sitting down with her. I don't ever see me sitting down, but like I can read the articles, I can read all the things, I can read everybody thanking her for her service, and all I can get out of my head is she cheated the game and she cheated players.
I agree that the sense that, or should have finished out the season, right? Like there's still a handful of games left to be played. You clearly can play in them because you performed fairly well in the World Cup. I thought she had a good World Cup. And I think that's how she should have ended her career if that's how she wanted to do it. Finish out the season. You don't have to play, any more international games, but just be done once November rolls around. The biggest question for me is, what was the conversation when she signed with Angel City? Was she upfront? Did she say, I don't really want to come back after the World Cup. I want to go home and be a part of my husband's NFL career and take care of my son? Which, that would be fair, because if Angel City decided and they mutually agreed on that decision that she would only play a handful of games prior to the
Yeah.
World Cup, then you know what? I give her that. But if she went to Angel City and said, I want to come back, I want to be a part of women's football again, I want to be a part of what you're building, blah, 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 then that's where I have my issue. Because to what you said, that's not fair to the game. That's not fair to the team of Angel City. And that's not fair to what the league is trying to build, because you are a good player. You did get the opportunity to sit out 2 years, which is great. Like, she was able to start her family and do what she wanted to do and come back from the injury that she had. But yeah, to me, it's just, there's so many question marks of what happened. Why are we being so secretive? Let's be a little bit more forthcoming, because you are, even if she didn't want to be like, she is the face of women's soccer in so many ways, because we know it, Scotty. So many people comment on the show, huge Julie Ertz fans, which is great. She's done so much good, but to end it like
Yeah,
this, there's
they're
so
so
many
mean to
questions.
us sometimes. I think it's
I
Zach Ertz
know.
yelling at
I
us.
know. I'm like, goodness gracious.
Take it easy. We don't even really say anything bad about her until
No.
today. Like, and
I
again,
don't
like
even think we said anything bad about her, to be honest. I think
until
we were
she did
honest.
this, this is the player I wanted my daughter to look up to.
Yeah.
Until this instant. And now it's like, and like when I play it all back in my head, and Coom was the coach, and she would be like, they'd be like, well, how's Julie's injury? And they were talking NWSL season, and she'd be like, well, she'll be ready for the World Cup. And like, nobody's even asking about the World Cup. Like, she missed the game. Will she be in the game this weekend? That's what we're asking. Is she like, how bad, how severe is the injury? We're not asking for the World Cup. We're asking about the next game for you. And her response was always, she'll be ready for the World Cup. Like, so was it like this big plan from the NWSL and US soccer to get her back? Like, that's what I mean. It's like, and if it was, which we don't know and we're never going to find out, but to me is like, that again is like, listen, there are soccer gods and they take care of business. And what we saw in the World Cup, like, to me is like, yep, got what we deserved. Like, because you can't go into a game. I've already spoke on announcing my retirement before I'm done. Like, I know people do it. I don't think so, because it always gives you that little thing in the back of your head like, well, this is the end. Do I really want to go into this tackle and risk my Achilles or my knee or breaking a leg? Because after this, it's over. So like, 17 games. I don't know if I'm going to go in that hard. Like, and you can't say that doesn't creep in players' minds. So like, when I retired, it happened to be right before the season. And I finally came to the conclusion, like, I just didn't have it in me anymore to be all in all the time for a whole season. And because of that, it was cheating the team. It was me. Listen, I would have been there. I would have been a starter. I probably would have made the All-Star game. I made it the year before. But it wasn't fair to any player on that team that is trying everything they have to continue their career, to get better. And I'm finishing mine out. And in my head, I'm already finished. So I didn't even go into a training. I called everybody and I said, look, man, I can't cheat you. I don't have it. I can't live on the road. I can't live in hotels. And that I understand.
Yeah.
But the way she went about it, like, oh, she didn't say at the end that, oh, my last time putting on the crest, like last time putting on the jersey, you're about to screw everybody in LA. Like, to me, it's like, I just don't see it, man. It made me so angry. It made me so angry.
I even thought the conversation that Ertz had post World Cup with Jenny Taft was like, she had already made up her mind. I mean, that conversation was literally right after the game. And she said, this is the last time I'm wearing a crest. Didn't announce her retirement, but it made everyone kind of go, wait, what? Like, is this how you're going to do it? And I thought that was strange. Like, to me, that reads, you made that decision before this game even kicked off or before you even came to Australia. You know, and we're like you said, we're never going to get our answer, but I think it's a shame. She's such a talented player and had, I think still so much to give throughout the rest of the season. I would have loved to seen her finish out with Angel City, a side who has the potential to be really good in this playoff push. But,
right.
It is what it is. And Ertz has decided to be done with it all. And we wish her well, but.
If I was on Angel City, that would be bulletin board material for me.
What'd you say?
If I was on Angel City, that would be bulletin. I'd put her picture up every day. Every day I'd have it in the locker room. And I'd be like, we're going to win this whole thing because of her, because of what she did. And I'm telling you, like, there better be a good conversation if I was a player on that team where you can tell me why you did what you did. Because maybe I'm friends with Sam Coffey. Maybe I'm friends with McCaskill. I don't know. Maybe I'm friends with somebody who I think should be on the national team. And you took their spot because of a pass. And that rubs me the wrong way.
No, and I think to your comment of Ertz being able to help the younger generation, like Danny Weatherholt, Madison Hammond, play in that six. And there was so much time. And even if Julie didn't get 90 minutes of a match, she still could have been teaching, Danny Weatherholt or Hammond, her game, her style, how she plays the six, what she's learned, whatever it is. And I think even being a part of that would have been okay. But
we have a saying at Next Level is, I show up to tournaments to collect my trophy. I win them in training. Like that, like she could have been in those trainings. Right. She could have been playing, maybe coming off the bench, being a part of the team, showing her desire to play. But like, I get it. You don't have it. But that means you didn't have it for a while. It's not all of a sudden like the World Cup ends and you're like, wow, you know what? I just don't want to do this anymore. Like you didn't want to do this before the World Cup. Because you got to travel, you got to live in a hotel. And in the beginning of your career, it's kind of fun seeing all the different cities. Yeah. At the end, you're like, I'm missing, I'm not with my husband. I'm not with my child. I'm not with whatever. Like for me, I was like, I wasn't with my family. I wasn't able to start a family because I didn't want to cheat my wife. I didn't want to cheat my child. I didn't want to cheat the team. So we held off having a child till I retired from soccer. Like, because it wasn't fair. I can't give everything. And I'm not saying like, don't have a child when you're in season. Some people can do it. I personally couldn't do it. Me and my wife didn't live together the whole year. I lived in one city. She lived in another city because I was playing in my seasons. And that's just the way our life went. But like when I signed on with a team, once I signed on the dotted line, even after finding out maybe I was being screwed contractually, you got everything. No one made me sign that contract. I decided to do it. So once I signed it, you got everything I had. When that contract ran out, if I thought I was screwed, I tried to make it back. If you didn't want to make it back with my new contract, then I went somewhere else and gave that team everything I had. It's just the way I was brought up to play the game. And to me, like just to all of a sudden, nope, I don't want to do it anymore. It's not good for me. Well, there's a lot of things in life we got to do that's not good for us. And no one asked you to sign with Angel City. No one asked you to do that. No one asked you to come back. And if they did do it, then I want to know that. I want to know the national team screwed over a whole bunch of players just to get her in the lineup.
Julie Ertz isn't the only person leaving the game as of right now, because you can always come back, right? New England Revolution head coach Bruce Arena was suspended on August 1st, and now he has come out and has issued an apology and has left the club. There's been obviously a lot of speculation over what happened, what was said. We have no idea what was said, and maybe we will never know. But there was quote unquote insensitive remarks made by Arena, and that is why he is leaving the club. What do you make of this whole situation? I know this was your yellow penny a few weeks ago, and the fact that we still don't know 2 weeks later, like what actually happened, what was said, why MLS wants to move away from Arena, why they put him on that suspension. But moving forward, what does New England Revolution do? What does MLS do? And will we ever find out? I mean, the last part is answered. We'll never find out. But I guess the two questions, most importantly.
Yeah, we just said we don't like to assume, but like the MLS and New England Revolution and Bruce Arena, you're giving us nothing else but to assume. Like, how do we not know this long what transpired? When the kid in the Red Bull said it, we found out exactly what he said. Then he said what he thought, and that was all a report. We found out the Yates report was like 26 pages or 36 pages worth of information that we got. When Berhalter stuff happened, we found out all that out. Like, why are we not hearing what he said? Listen, people make mistakes all the time. Like, but now let's like. He's going to resign. Like, is it really? It sounds like one of those things when you get fired and they're like, you did something bad, but the company's like, hey, if you just say I quit, then we won't let out what you did, so you can get a job somewhere else or do something else, so no one will, really think too bad of you. It's like we got a paragraph from Arena, we got a paragraph from New England Revolution, and we got a paragraph from the MLS. I think sometimes when less people are involved, they feel it's easier to keep quiet.
Yeah.
And that's just not soccer. I think that's everything. But like last year, we had the same kind of an incident, kind of, in Boston with the Celtics. But we got all that information. Like that wasn't with the team. That wasn't within a game. That wasn't with his players. That was with a staff member. You want me to be a fan. And you want me to cheer for the league, and you want me to buy Apple TV, and you want me. And listen, Messi can't be the only reason I'm doing it. Like it has to be a league-wide thing. Like, one, you got to get me interested in the league. Like today, we are all sad. I am a Chicago Bears fan, and I am sad today that we do not get to see Aaron Rodgers because I love the NFL. And like, it's bad when we lose players like that aren't on my team. So like for this to go happen and then like nothing's being really told about it, like insensitive. So like you got people saying that maybe it was racial, then it's not racial, and then it was this, and then it was insensitive, then it was like, yeah, but what was it? What did he say that he's resigning and he wasn't coming back anyway? It doesn't seem like.
And it's also like Bruce Arena isn't just, Joe Schmo off the street coaching an MLS team. He's coached the U.S. national team. He's been a part of this league for a long time. He's been honestly the fabric of MLS in so many ways. It's
he's basically Sir Alex Ferguson of U.S. soccer. He's won college championships. He was MLS championships. He's like the winningest coach in U.S. history, U.S. national team history. Like, I mean, the guy's like, I'm not a fan of his coaching style, and we've met each other. I played against him in college and stuff like that, but like, I'm never cheering against him. Like, I'm never hoping for bad things to happen, but like, okay, he made a mistake. Like, I've made mistakes, people know about them, and then you grow from them. And hopefully become a better person because of it. Like, and I understand that's what he said. Like, I'm going to grow from it, but yeah, I know that's what we all have to do. Like, but like, I'm not cheering for New England until I get some information. I will cheer against them. I hope they lose every game. And that's not fair to Richie Williams or the players there. But like, if this is the way you're going to handle your business, and like for the MLS, it's hard. Like, why is it so secretive? What did he say? What how bad could it have been? Like, I mean, I don't get it. Like, people say bad things. People say stupid stuff. And like, do they mean it? And I like it when people say something and they're like, that's really not in my character. And you're like, you said it. It is now. It is now in your character. Like, if it's not in your character, you would have never that would have never came out of your mouth. It would have never came out of your mouth. But it did, because we make mistakes. Yeah. Yes, for the most part, it's not in my character. But every once in a while, I lose my head and I lose control, and stupid stuff is said. And I'm going to lose my job for it. Great. But this is what I said.
Well, also, too, when you take on the role of a head coach of any team, league, whatever, it doesn't matter. I mean, any role where you are a leader, like, you take on the responsibility of what comes out of your mouth is going to be made public, and you're going to be scrutinized for it. You're going to have to handle it, blah, blah, blah. And it seems like MLS is really protecting whatever was said. And, yeah, we might never find out what happens there. We probably won't find out what happens with the Julie Ertz situation. I mean, if things are kind of like consistent, what happened in Kansas City hasn't even been forthcoming in the NWSL. So I think this is still a conversation, and it's still the top of what's happening in MLS. And there might be more that comes forward, and we'll definitely stay on top of the story and what might happen. But it puts MLS in a weird spot with how much they've progressed with Messi coming and how well he's done. And I think the league's done a great job with the value of some of the production of games, and the talent's done a good job. This kind of sets them back a little bit, because it makes fans be very confused, because this would never happen in the NFL and MLB. Like, things would be super forthcoming.
I agree. And is it something, and again, I mean, who knows what he said, but like, it almost seems like, hey, we're really riding something really special here with this Messi and Miami thing. And look at all this. We don't want anything to disrupt this. So let's just push this sweep it under the rug and be done with it. And like, I don't think that's the way you should run it. Like,
no,
he said it, he did it. Like, it's not going to hurt. Like, a lot of people aren't even going to care what he said. I truly believe that some people will be like, yeah, that's, par for the course. Like, look around. A lot of crazy things happen in soccer. I don't know if people have been noticing, but there's a little craziness going over in Spain.
Yeah.
Like, people involved in the game are a little Looney Tunes at times. So, like, we need to know. We need to move them out. Like, listen, the NWSL had a huge problem. They fixed it. They're trying to resolve it. The league is the best it's ever been. So, like, you can go through hard times and still grow from it as a league. So, like, to me is like, it's so just sneaky. Like, it's just like a sneaky thing that we're not getting anything from it from anybody. That's what's just weird to me about it.
We'll see. I mean, we've got plenty of NWSL this weekend. Their regular league play is back in action. MLS is in action. We've got the U.S. men's national team coming off of a game against Oman. They come off that Uzbekistan win, and the U.S. women's national team plays on the 21st. Plenty of soccer left to be followed. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and you can watch us on YouTube at SFTP Pod. And we will be back next Wednesday for more Straight from the Pitch.
Have a great week.